G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories, including past experiences, and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. On today's episode, I have Phillip Bigg from Tassie's Shooters Fishers Farmers Party and Tassie's Shooters Union President. How you going, Phillip?
Yeah, pretty good for a Sunday. How about yourself?
Yeah, pretty good, man. Pretty good. Just avoiding the heat in the aircon. Got the aircon cranky in here and the fan cranking. Like I said, currently 40 something degrees.
Waiting for that sunset to come down.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think we're going to get much of a relief tonight. I think the lowest is about 30. So
yeah, you better crack a cold one for this one then.
I'm fasting at the moment, so I can't. So I got me soda water and
brutal.
I need to lose a couple of those kegs that I put on over Christmas. So back on the carnivore diet and fasting.
Well, that's why we sweat, isn't it? You know, just burn it off.
Unfortunately, I can't sweat Christmas ham and pies from the servo.
Yeah, that takes a bit of effort, I think.
Sure does. Well, let's jump straight into it. I've said you're from Tassie, but whereabouts in Tassie are you from?
So I live in New Norfolk, which is in the Darwin Valley, so just outside of Hobart. So it's a very kind of interesting area. We have the Darwin River that comes through, absolutely beautiful. You can get on there and, you know, do some fishing, or you can travel up, you know, probably half an hour to an hour, some lakes, and, you know, you can either go hunting or fishing. So you're pretty well spot on where I am here in the Darwin Valley. So, yeah, and then you've only got 20 minutes into Hobart, so what more can you ask for?
Beautiful. Did you grow up in that area, did you? Or?
No, so I'm what is commonly referred to as a blow-in. I actually was born in Queensland and grew up there all around the southeast Queensland. So, you know, completely different type of environment down here. But I think the one best thing is the summers down here. That's what really drew me to Tasmania. It's absolutely beautiful. Winters, absolutely shit. Don't even bother. I think the only saving grace about the winters here is snow hunts. That's my favourite time of the year. And outside of that, winter's just crap, especially when you're working in it.
I bet. So how long have you been in Tassie for?
I think I moved down here in 2009. So I've been here for a while now.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, so it's completely different weather, completely different everything. It's just opposite ends of the world, really, when you compare it to Queensland.
100% it would be, you know. I've been to Queensland, haven't been to Tassie, as we were discussing earlier. You know, we'll just jump into that, why I haven't been to Tassie a bit later in the episode. But what sparked your first interest in hunting, fishing and the outdoors?
Well, growing up in Queensland, you know, fishing's a bit of a staple for Queenslanders. And when I was really, really young, I actually went to work with my mum because, you know, daycare, whatever, it just wasn't really feasible. So, and she was chefing, so quite often I'd be going into cafes and restaurants with her as I was growing up. So that got me into food. And then obviously when you're into food, you get excited about all the other aspects of, you know, fishing and hunting and those types of things. And unfortunately, hunting wasn't really on the cards for me when I was at that age. It wasn't until I got to Tassie. But fishing, absolutely a big thing for me. Loved it. Who doesn't love fishing in Queensland especially? You've got some good-sized fish. So, you know, go after that. And, yeah, so I guess what really got me into it is just when you're cooking, because I got into it myself, I was actually doing a chef's apprenticeship. And when you cook, you want to grow things yourself. You want to process things yourself from the raw elements. And that's what really kind of piqued my interest in it all, you know, to have my veggie garden. I used to have, in Queensland, you can't do it in Tasmania, but I had a basil tree. So sweet basil grows on the stems that you buy from like Woolies. I had a tree. It was monstrous and it was beautiful. And, so that kind of satisfaction of being able to harvest things yourself, that's really what got me going. And I think a lot of people are starting to find that now, especially post-COVID and, not being able to get things. And as we're seeing now with egg shortages, people are starting to get chickens, So I think people like myself when I was younger started realizing, well, I can do it myself. So why not? And you educate yourself on how to do it, and you go head first in and end up with the goods, I guess you could say.
Yeah, beautiful. So you went from cooking to fishing to shooting and hunting. What made you, like, you moved down to Tassie and you said you didn't get into hunting till you got down there. What actually picked up the spark once you were down there?
I don't think there was anything significant. I just felt the need, because I'd been shooting in Queensland with my dad. Actually, he took me to the range, and back then you on the spot permit, so you can just rock up to a range and fire away type of thing. So firearms wasn't really anything new to me, and then ever since then I've always wanted to get into it, and you watch all these videos on YouTube, Facebook, you name it, and you see these beautiful animals, being processed and harvested, putting in the freezer and using it for what it's meant for. And it just churned away at me, just wanting to get into it. And eventually I bit the bullet and all right, so AB, firearms, here we go. And head first in. So like anyone, you kind of start off small, go off your wallaby and work your way up. And, there's no greater satisfaction than being able to provide for yourself and your family. So that's what really drives me to do it more than anything. I'm not out there shooting things for the sake of it. I don't really agree with that. I think if you're going to kill something, you use it and use as much of it as you can.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. In some instances you can't, but as long as you use as much as you can when you can, that's the way to go about it. Unlike when it comes to helicopter culling and things like this, which I'm sure we'll get into a bit later. So, what are the processes of getting into hunting in Tasmania? I understand that fallow have a season down there, and do you need tags as well?
Yeah, so Tasmania has your hunting license, so you can get your wallaby and then tag on, other things like ducks and deer and mutton birds and so on. So you get your license to hunt, obviously, after you get your firearms license. Let's make that be known. So you get stag tags at the beginning of the year. Which would generally be sent out in February. So you have a certain time period to go after one stag. So you get one tag for one stag. And because I'll just quickly talk on that, they keep talking about the overpopulation of deer. Now, I haven't used a couple tags. I think that they should allow us to use previous year's tags, personally. I think that's a good way to kind of help control the numbers, let people get what they can for what they paid for. So anyway, after stag season starts, then we have the doe season start. And because they're a game regulated species, so it stops near the end of the year. So there's a good time period to get out there and get your deer. Wallabies all year round. And then obviously you have duck seasons and mutton seasons, which is very, very short. You just got to keep all that top of mind. And when you have your firearms hunting license, you can purchase permission to shoot with sustainable timber. So you can actually select 2 zones from sustainable timber to go hunting on what you technically call private land. More often than not, they're not exactly the greatest places to go. But you can also use that for permission to shoot when you put in your firearms license as well. So that's very handy. And I don't know if you've seen, but I've been trying to call out for more public land in Tasmania, and I think the best way to do that is with sustainable timber, because they know what they're going to be harvesting in the next 4 to 5 years. So if they know that, there's no concern of public safety. So let us get out there and control the numbers that they're worried about.
So let's jump back to the tag side of things. What's your thoughts on that? Because in my mind, they're calling for fallow numbers to be taken down, but you have this system where you can only shoot one buck a year, and I'm not sure what it is with does, if it's just unlimited there or not. But do you feel that there should be no seasons like the rest of Australia? Like, I understand that hunters fought to get this style of hunting down in Tassie, but do you think it would be better not to have tags and as much regulation on hunting?
Well, there's a few things to unpack there. Basically, we can't just look at the one stag tag per person thing, because it's not accurate. We actually have a lot of culling permits in Tasmania. So at the moment, we're out of season for stags and does. But I was speaking to a friend a few hours ago, and they shot 36 deer and spike and stags, because it's under a cull permit, and you've got to look after your farms, which I totally agree with. And these guys are using them for the dogs or handing them out to mates, for a good feed. So a lot of our numbers are being culled with primary production. Okay, so a lot of people go, well, I only get one stag tag, so that's not really going to help the numbers. But there is that other side too. I've heard of 80 deer being shot in a day, just between 5 blokes. So there is that population control there. When it comes to the population management in Tasmania, a lot of the issue stems from when we had deer farms. A lot of deer farms, because everyone went, a lot of money in deer farming, I'll get into it. And then the bubble burst. And at that time, it wasn't a regulated farming system. So a lot of the time, fences got broken, or they just let them out, because what's the point of keeping them here? So that type of issue came about. And then we had these satellite populations popping up in areas otherwise they wouldn't have been, just random areas where they've set up a new population and started breeding. That's where the Greens and Invasive Species Council used the nonsense of saying that they're taking over Tasmania, and their estimated numbers saying there's going to be 1 million by whatever 2050 or whatever nonsense they come up with. Is just absolute madness. I don't know how you could even predict that, but that's their agenda. So I think it is important to still keep them as a game regulated species. Personally, I don't like the idea of going out there shooting a doe that's pregnant. That's another reason for it. I think we've got to maintain what we have in a very equal way. We've got to make sure that we're not impacting anything too badly. But, as you hear all the time, that the Greens are saying, oh, well, they're destroying the World Heritage Area, blah, blah, blah. They're trampling everything. Every hunter that watches a deer knows that they're walking along the wallaby runs. They're not just jumping willy-nilly, because they don't like shit underneath their feet. It's absolute nonsense. So if we're allowed to, go after more stags as recreational hunters without the culling permits, that might help a little bit. But to say, here, go free for all, I don't think that's going to be a good solution. It's just not going to work for me. And I know there's plenty of others that would agree with that as well.
Yeah, look, I understand like the buck management side of things. Tassie's known for some insane fallow deer, but look, at least it's not limited on how many does you can take, because that's where the real population control comes into effect. Taking one good stag a year, or buck as the rest of Australia calls them. And then taking, a dozen or two does, that's where the population control is going to come, which is pretty good on that side of things. But, being in a place where I couldn't hunt deer whenever I wanted to, I would struggle hard being here in South Australia. Like, I don't shoot really any deer from, probably September to February. I might take the odd spike from here and there, but again, I'm not a massive fan of shooting pregnant animals. With goats and sambar deer, it's a bit hard to avoid that, especially because how often goats breed and Samba can be carrying any time of the year. But with fallow and reds, I do try and avoid that period.
So you're already doing like a game regulated time frame as it is, just on a matter of principle, and I think that's a great thing. One thing has to be pointed out too, though, is that in Tasmania we're not allowed to shoot spikies at all.
Okay.
Yeah, so not sure I quite understand that one personally. And to be fair, I think quite a lot of spikies get shot. Like besides the culling, obviously, it's sometimes hard with a long distance shot to actually know if you're aiming at something that's not a spiky. Like you see antlers and you see brushes and shrubs behind them, and it can kind of play, especially on like dusk and things like that. So there's a bit of a grey area there. I think everyone tries to do the right thing though, as much as they can.
Yeah, that's it. Especially with spikes, you can, if you're shooting at something at a couple 100 meters away, it's a bit hard to tell if it's a doe or a spike, especially on those lower light times. So, how did this, when the game regulations started, was that introduced by hunters? Did they organise this, one buck tag a year type thing?
To be quite honest, I haven't actually really looked into the very start of the game management in Tasmania. I've been too busy focusing on what we can achieve. But I think it was kind of a mixture between people, because back then we had a bit more of involvement in regulation and government. So there would have been a lot of people involved in those decision making. And how it would, kind of long-term work, because even at the moment, the Liberals are part of their 2030 strong plan. They're, saying that they're going to stand behind recreational hunters, which means that they're going to keep the mandate going of game regulated species. So that kind of shuts out the Greens and that type of agenda.
Yeah.
But moving forward, we've got to have more involvement. And at the moment, we don't really have enough of involvement as recreational hunters. Obviously primary producers, they're all over it. They've got to be, and, they voice their concerns. We've got Tas Farmers, they're great. And so for the president of Tas Farmers, we talk about these issues and how it impacts farmers. And I completely agree that they need that management to cull, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for recreational hunters, we've got to be able to do more and push for more.
Yeah, definitely push for recreational hunters to do more of the culling side of things rather than helicopter culling. What's the helicopter culling like over there in Tassie?
Right, so Parks and Wildlife in 2024 concluded their 2-year period that they were allowed to do the aerial culling. They shot just over 1,000 deer in the World Heritage Area and Walls of Jerusalem, some questionable areas in between too, but we won't go into that. So they spent quite a lot of money shooting deer that they said that was inaccessible by hunters, blah blah blah, too far to walk to carry deer, blah blah blah. Can't get them out with a helicopter because it's not feasible. Called bullshit on there because I put that post up of New Zealand's helicopter, tiny little thing, looked like a drone from a distance, carrying 6 stags. So, the aerial culling, I don't want to see it back because it's not humane in any way. I don't agree with it. If you're going to use it on primary production, go for it. Nothing wrong with that at all. But to say that you're protecting World Heritage Area with aerial culling and just inhumanely slaughtering deer without allowing hunters to do anything, that's absolute nonsense. Plus, I don't understand it.
Plus the lead and the plastic that they're dropping into those World Heritage Areas as well.
Well, there was that photo that I put up with the half-decayed carcass of a deer right next to a waterway last year. And it's funny because they're not allowed to shoot anything near waterways just in case they drop and, they rot away. It's a no-no, obviously, because you don't want to taint the water. And I got sent that photo going, look at this. This is from the culling. I put it out there, and it stirred some controversy. They won't admit to doing wrong, obviously, but it's hypocritical because if they did shoot it away from the water and it got away, they have to pursue it and make sure it drops. So they either didn't do that or they shot it right next to the water.
Yeah, look, we have the same thing here in South Australia. I'm sure you've seen the videos that Jake Nichols has put out and the photos that he's put out that have caught people's attention worldwide. Just wounded deer laying around and, a bunch of deer with BB holes all through the back end of them and antlers blown off and, them chasing several deer around a wide open paddock and just blasting every single one of them. It's just absolutely horrible. I don't get how anyone can say that's way more humane than hunters getting out there and taking a couple deer. It blows my mind, and especially bow hunting when they can say that that's more humane, chasing these deer around from a helicopter, firing heaps of shots at them, than one humane arrow straight through the vitals. It blows my mind.
It really pisses me off that they can go around spending taxpayers' money doing this inhumane damage. And look what they did to the Brumbies, just absolutely disgusting. But it's people say, well, it's okay to shoot pigs out of a helicopter. Pigs are a lot smaller. They go down differently. And there's an enormous amount of numbers of pigs. And the damage they do compared to deer, I mean, a deer maybe rubs his antlers up a tree and scrapes some bark off, but these pigs, they just destroy everything. So, there's a vast difference right there. And those videos in South Australia, it's like, wow, how are they getting away with this?
Yeah, it's
unreal.
Absolutely crazy. And the Brumby one's a funny one too because, they are an introduced animal. I get that Australia has a very fondness of wild horses, Brumbies in Australia, but I personally see them as every other feral, introduced species, and I believe that they should be allowed to be targeted by recreational hunters to drop the numbers down. Horse meat, it's eaten all around the world, and I don't see an issue with it. I'd hunt and eat a Brumby. So.
Yeah, I mean, they say that recreational hunters aren't the solution. Well, I call bullshit on that because, as it was pointed out in New South Wales with the pigs, the government shot about 200,000 and recreational hunters shot, 1 million?
Yeah.
Or something huge.
Insane.
What does that say right there? So what state government or department can turn around and say hunters aren't the solution? There's your evidence right there. They contributed economically to New South Wales. Every one of those hunters spent money in small community towns. That's big money when you accumulate that over a year. That's the main point too.
Yeah, that's it. What's all this stuff going on with the Tasmania banning international hunters down there? I've seen a lot of this going on, and I've mentioned it on the podcast in a couple of past episodes. I think some stuff has been cleared up by now, but what's the go there?
Okay, so for a long time, I've tried to get people to realise that our Firearms Act doesn't cater for international firearms licences, so it's just a big no-no. There is an exemption available for international licence holders or hunters, I guess you could say, but that, as far as I'm aware, that hasn't been granted since April of 2023. So that's what you see my post about, where I've been saying, let's fix this. Then the interstate hunters was another issue, and we got notified behind the scenes that they weren't going to be allowing interstate hunters in Tasmania because it, again, is not covered in our Act. Sport shooting is, but hunting isn't. The only time hunting is mentioned in our Act is actually for genuine reasons for a firearms license. So we've seriously got to get that fixed up. So we found out about it and, made some noise, and obviously everyone made some noise as well, and some good work was done behind the scenes to get it cleared up, and the commissioner was probably forced to sign a new exemption to allow interstate hunters to come in. because there's a lot of people that are already pre-booked to come to Tasmania to hunt. Because when they come here to hunt, they stay at places, and more often than not, they'll also go to our lakes and go after the trout, go fishing. So had they continued down that path, that would have been an absolute shitstorm for the government. So over New Year's, they had to fix that pretty quick. Hopefully, we see some amendments that make sense, like I'm calling for at the moment, and put in international firearms licenses and interstate hunters in our act, because it just makes sense.
So what's the process for someone from interstate coming down into Tasmania to, say, hunt? If they're hunting with someone, do they still need to get this temporary firearms license, or is it only if they're bringing their own firearms?
No, so basically all it is, you come to Tasmania, you just need to make sure you have a hunting license. Effectively, okay. There's not much to it. So for the sake of the exemption, it's basically we're recognising other states' licenses as per the NFA.
Yep.
And that kind of clears that up. But this exemption is only for interstate. It does not cater for international whatsoever. And that's a big issue, because we've had people messaging from like New Zealand and, going, I just really want to come over. I want to go fishing and go for a hunt, and they're just like, well, I'm not going to come there if I can't hunt. So, yeah, it's a complete cocked up system that we've got going on here, and it doesn't seem like that they want to fix it up at all.
Yeah, I get it. Look, as I said earlier, Tassie's never been on the cards for me because I haven't been able to go down there to bow hunt, and if I was going to go down there, I would, because I hunt fallow here, I've hunted fallow in New South Wales, Victoria, I'd only go down there to be able to hunt with a bow and arrow. But since that had been banned since as long as I've been bow hunting, pretty much, it's never been on the cards. And unfortunately, it was used as an example here in South Australia when Susan Close brought in the bow hunting ban here. So it's absolutely crazy.
There's no justification for banning bow hunting whatsoever other than those with agendas. Tasmania essentially banned bow hunting because of one wallaby that had an arrow through its neck, and if you look at the photo, you can still find it. That is not a hunting arrow. It was more than likely some kid that was just having some fun or something and shot the wallaby through the neck, and obviously it survived. And when those types of things make the front page of the newspaper, you can imagine what happens. You get knee-jerk reactions from politicians because all they care about is populist opinion, ultimately, and that sets a precedence for every other state in Australia.
It sure does. Clear things up for me, because I've had a few people on from Tassie. When it comes to bow hunting, is it just deer banned, or I've heard you can still target some smaller game and all of that? Do you know what the actual law is there in Tassie? So
it's not technically illegal. Right, so there are some things you can still go after with bows. Adrian from our party, he's all over that more than me. But there are some things you can go after, but definitely not deer, not wallaby, those types of things. So, it's really not much point even bothering to buy a bow. What are you going to do? Probably shoot a rabbit or something. It's completely pointless. Might as well just have your air rifle or 22.
That's it. Well, rabbits are fun to bow hunt. If we had more of them over here, I'd be out a lot more. Well, obviously not now, but
well, I mean, I don't know if you've seen the article that was actually put up Friday online from the Mercury newspaper, and then they actually, surprisingly, for the very first time, Shooters, Fishers, Farmers Party were on the front page of the Mercury about our article with rabbits. And, we're saying that we need to educate people about the benefits of, first of all, utilising rabbits for food. And then, obviously, it drops the numbers down in suburbia, because at the moment, no one does anything with them in suburbia. We've got built-up areas. In the middle of Hobart, there's rabbits, and people going, oh, there's rabbits everywhere. Well, catch one, cook it, Do something with it. Instead, you have the Greens and everyone else jumping up and down saying, we need to do something about it, let's poison them.
Yeah.
That's not the right attitude. And if it wasn't for rabbits, I reckon half the population of Australia wouldn't be here today. Because back in the day, that's what people survived on.
Yeah.
And everyone just wants to carry on about it now.
I've spoken about it on the podcast before. My pop would, he would work all day as a tyre fitter, and then at night he would go out spotlighting rabbits to supplement his income, selling skins and meat and all of that type of stuff. So, it's 100% agree with you. And rabbits by far one of my favourite game meats. Like it's, Kentucky Fried Rabbit. I do like Kentucky Fried popcorn nuggets out of the rabbit, and it's so good. And the stews it makes. I've got a bunch of different hunting cookbooks here, and just the amount of different things you can make with it. It's so versatile, but so yummy, And it's a good way to introduce people into eating wild game as well, because it tastes so much like chicken.
Yeah, people don't know what they're missing out on. A lot of people that, I don't like game meat. I can't even stand the smell of it, and I've fed it to them, and they got no idea what they're on about. It's all in their head, really. But I mean, there's so many rabbit out there, and they're about to release, Khaleesi or whatever it is, which means no one's going to want to touch rabbits for a long time at all, which is quite saddening, really. But if we educate people and say, this is how you do it, this is in your backyard, you can trap it, you can long line it or, snare it, whatever, and educate people. And that's the thing with schools nowadays. They're trying to stop the kids from going to farms and schools. We've got to teach people, real life, not this bullshit in books. And I think starting there is a good way. We should get the councils involved and schools involved and saying, rabbit problem. All right, this is how we sort it out.
Yeah, do like a survival trapping course for the kids at the school and have a competition who can catch the most rabbit with some snares and
and teach them how to tan. You can make a lot of that. That is such a dying art these days. It's really sad because my old next door neighbour, as I was saying, he's like my adoptive father in a way. He grew up in Medina, which is an old town. And when they were kids, they used to make their money from possum skins, rabbit skins, you name it. And the bloke would come around and make sure you've done them properly and hold them up to the sun. And he'll be like, nah, that one's worth that much because you could see light through it. Or, it's a completely lost art. And we've got to start bringing it back.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. That stuff does take a lot of time to learn. So but I migrated to the cooking side of things and the butchering side of things, and that's where that's what I like. As you were talking about before, it's mostly all about food for me. As soon as I shoot something, I'm thinking, what can I make out of this? Is it going to be jerky? Is it going to be, what are the primal cuts going to be? Am I, taking bits to work and cooking bits up, or making, carpaccio and handing that out to people that have never eaten venison before? So,
yeah, there's so much you can do. It's like, rabbits kind of like chicken, so you can just turn it into absolutely everything possible. Deer and wallaby, I mean, you can just treat it like any other red meat. Some people, I like a good bit of wallaby and I'll just have a steak. Some hunters won't actually do that because they think it's a bit too strong. But I love a good wallaby steak. Love making jerky. One of my go-tos is making up sausage rolls. So all the basically offcuts and everything, I mince it up and I just throw it in a big pot, bit of port, herbs, seasoning. Just throw it in puff pastry, roll it up, and wrap it up and put it in the freezer. It's such an easy meal. You just chuck it in the air fryer. What more do you need?
How good. Well, let's chat about Shooters Fishers Farmers Party. How did you get on board with them?
So I actually was running for local council election years ago, and after that had concluded, I had one of the people from the party reach out to me and said, would you like to come on board? It kind of shocked me, actually. I didn't know what to think because one of my things is, well, my 3 slogans during that election was, pragmatism, community, and gumption. And that's shooters, fishers, farmers all over. So I think they've seen, what I was about during that election and invited me in. So I was hesitant at first, but then I was like, nah, let's give it a go and, see what we can achieve. And it wasn't necessarily about standing up for elections. It was just trying to get your voices heard and get involved. And at that time when I joined the party, we had a lot of negativity towards the party. I'm not sure why that was. I think it was just that continual stigma against the party. And so I took it upon my own to try and change that as quick as I could. And, one of the first things I had was people on Facebook having a crack about some random nonsense. And then I had one person screenshot my face and, those laughing stock emoji things and, the memes. So I put an end to all that and basically sent out, I think, to everyone who was carrying on and said, you're either a part of the solution or you're part of the problem. If you have a problem with the party, let me know. And, we can work together to try and do better, because that's what we're about. We've got to improve. We've got to work together. Since then, I think we've been doing a good job as a party in Tasmania. And I've ran for 2 elections with the Shooters Fishers Farms Party, with the state election and legislative council election. And obviously we've got some elections coming up this year too, so we'll see what happens there. But I love the party. The name stands out for me. A lot of people say, oh, well, Shooters, it's not really appealing to the general public. But I put it to them in a way that, well, they're a minority. We are a minority. And as soon as we kowtow to those people who say you need to get Shooters off your name to appease the masses, is the second that the party dies, because we're standing up for the minority that doesn't have a voice whatsoever. Same with farmers. Farmers are getting screwed over every day of the week. And, it's the same thing. We need to stand up for farmers. Fishers. I mean, look what's been happening. New South Wales, Victoria, you name it. Screwed over. So why would we want to change the name? It just makes no sense. So I'm pretty strong with the Shooters Fishers Farms Party, and as long as I can, I'll keep going with it and see if I can do better for people.
No, that's great to hear. Like I said, I've had a candidate on for South Australia, and I've had Robert on as well. What does it take to become a candidate for Shooters Fishers Farmers Party? Something we're missing is, people in our age range, getting into politics. Something we see that happens very often in the Greens and anti-hunting side of the thing is that they're great at campaigning for the younger people, and they bring younger people on board to help fight for their causes. You've got people like Georgie Purcell and all these other people on those sides. They're young, they're enthusiastic for what they stand for, where on the shooters side of things and the hunter side of things we get a lot of old timers rather, and you don't get a lot of young fresh faces out there. What does it take for someone to step up, and how would you encourage someone to step up to be a candidate, or just help out with the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party in general?
Well, look, I'm constantly asking people to just help out. Come election time, share our stuff, help us put signs up, just little things you don't need to be public about if you're worried about that. Just help us get out there. That's the main thing, because we don't have the money. We've got next to nothing compared to the big league politicians, so to say. But to become a candidate, it's more that drive in yourself to want to do better and help people. Myself personally, my experiences is it really sucks a lot of your time. It drains you emotionally sometimes, especially in elections. It's really, really hard to be in an election. People don't understand how bad it can be when you have just non-stop emails and phone calls and messages and attacks. And it's very rare you have messages saying you're doing a good job. You get especially hunters and fishers, and they start saying, well, what are you doing about this? What are you doing about that? It's really hard to micromanage those things, and people need to understand that too, especially when we're representing what we are. It's not like Greens, where they have their same mantra all the time. Liberals or Labor, they carry on about whatever's happening on the day. We stand by what we've always stood by, and we have this issue with the older generation and the younger generation, where there's such a divide, where the older generation are just over it. They're sick of fighting. They just want to kind of do their thing, be left alone. They don't want to be involved. The younger ones coming through, there are some good ones out there. I have messages from some young ones, and they want to help out where they can, not necessarily front and center, but what they can do. But compared to the Greens or any of these other parties, the following is completely different. Greens members, say I'm a Greens politician, I can say something to a Greens voter, almost spit in their face, and they'll still vote for me because they're diehard. They stick with it. Shooters, farmers and fishers and everyone else in between, they kind of tend to get a bit distracted. Like in Tasmania with the state election, we had a massive issue with the stadium debacle. It basically became a referendum out of the stadium. At that time, we were trying to get people to realise that if you don't stand up with us, you're going to have a lot of troubles. And that's the issue. They get too distracted by the headlines of the day, or sports, or you name it, because we're all out there people. We like our sports, we like our recreations, so it's easy to get distracted by those types of things. So you got to look long term, and that's what people need to do who want to keep their recreations going. Look long term. Don't worry about the headlines now. And when you're looking at candidates for other parties to vote for as well, make sure they've been saying, I'm going to support you for a long time. That's just not the in thing, like, with this go woke broke thing. A lot of politicians are jumping on that bandwagon all of a sudden to try and get more votes. Come into the federal election, and here they are all of a sudden, I'm going to protect your freedoms and recreations. Absolute nonsense. So, yeah. But to become a candidate with Shooters Fishers Farmers Party, there's not much to it really. It's have the drive. You don't need to know a lot, because I didn't know a lot. I've picked up a lot of the things. Within 6 months, I was briefing the Legislative Council, on the firearms amendment. So it's something you can pick up quite easy, learn, be involved with. It's not that hard. And don't be fearful about asking about, helping out or joining, because we always need more people.
Yeah, beautiful. Something that I discussed with Aussie Reviews the other day was that he was talking about, as hunters and shooters and fishers and farmers, and we should be down there on election day handing out pamphlets and how to vote and all of that, which, he brought up an amazing point, is you see all the Greens people down there, you see Labor, you see Liberal, you see, all of these other parties down there having people, but Shooters Fishers Farmers Party, they never, well, not just Shooters Fishers Farmers Party, but these smaller groups, they don't have many of us down there fighting for them and helping them out. So that's something that I'm going to be committed for. I'll be helping John down here when it comes time, and hopefully we can get him on the cards down here. So.
Yeah, I want to give some people some perspective here with how elections are. So when I was running for the Legislative Council election in an area known as Prosser, I was going up against an ex-Deputy Premier and a current sitting mayor, and then some independents. Okay, so heavy hitters. And we have a cap on our elections of $18,500 for the Legislative Council. Not that that really means much when you're doing other things on the side, as we see they do. In that election, I spent $7,000. everything I had one donation, which helped me quite a lot. Half of that money went to a postal mail out, basically, with a little leaflet. Okay. Half of that money. So $3,500 went to a mail out just for that area. So we're talking about how much it costs just for that one thing. The printing in Australia Post was somewhere around $2,500 to mail it. The rest of it was just the printing of the leaflets, because I designed it all myself, because I don't have money to spend on someone doing that. The rest of it was, printing call flutes and, getting electronic signs and things like that. It was myself, Carlo DeFalco, and Adrian Picken. And Adrian's our chair of the party, and Carlo's second deputy. And it was us three that did everything, because we didn't have anyone to put their hand up and help out. Had we had some more people just to help put some signs up, that would have made a hell of a difference, because I came third in the primaries on that election. And if it wasn't for the distribution of preferences from one independent, I could have most likely been a sitting member of the Legislative Council. That's how quickly it changes.
Yeah, crazy. So, shooters, hunters down in Tasmania, if you're listening, reach out to Phillip and offer your support. Do see what you can do to help down there, because these smaller parties need help. And it's same as South Australia, it's same Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland. It's what Ozzy was speaking on the recent episode. There's a lot that we could do to really change things. And speaking about a lot we can do to change things, we've just seen this big thing with Great Northern. Look what happens when all of these outdoor recreational users team up together, and what we can achieve. That was just 2 days on social media, and they pulled their campaign straight away. And look at the media coverage it got. The shit that we could change if we work together.
It's a total prime example. And as we're coming up to the election, hopefully people kept that in their mind, just keep that flow going. And as I've said to a few people in Tasmania now, we've had a lot of issues with the government and firearms in the past year. We had antique firearms, the new license application questions. It's just consistent attacks on law-abiding firearms owners. And so what I'm aiming for now is we're going on the offensive. We're going after what we want. We're going to hound them until they start listening to us and start talking to us, because it's absolutely bullshit that we've got to put up with this. I mean, the report put out from Australia Institute is a prime example of that agenda attack and the media attention it gets. I mean, that's just absurd that they can get that attention from a biased report and the media doesn't question one part of it. It's unreal.
They never do when it comes to firearms, and we've seen that with all this crap going on in Western Australia. I've just had the episode with Kate release, and then Aussie was just before that. You'll be a couple episodes after this, so it's just absolutely crazy. And I've said it on many podcasts, but I hate politics. I hate politicians, but this is what this podcast has turned into. It's me chatting about politics and policies that are happening around Australia and chatting to politicians. So it's I've definitely changed my mindset and how I'm going to approach things in the future when it comes to it. And I hope that we're going to see a lot more of it in the coming years, because, like I said, the amount of things we can tackle if we all work together. We've seen it with Carly and Marcus, who put out the video. His face has been everywhere, and Simon from Full Drive TV. These people have good followings, and when they get behind something, they have the numbers, and we can do Australia-wide campaigns and effectiveness. That's one thing that I've said about the bow hunting ban, right? We probably got maybe 10,000, maybe a little bit more signatures on the petitions for it. Yes, they weren't the Parliament ones. They were open to Australia-wide, and, we're getting signatures from overseas as well, but about 10,000 signatures. That's just disgusting. And Kate was talking about how she only got so many signatures and that on stuff that she's done, and we're talking about it. There's like 90,000 firearms owners in Western Australia. If each of them donated $1 to her campaign, she could fight really hard over there. So it just blows my mind.
Yeah. One thing I've got to ask you, though, at what point did that mindset change for you? When did you realise that everything you do in your life has politics behind it and that you should probably start being involved? Where do you know that defining moment, or did it just kind of slowly evolve?
With this bow hunting ban, South Australia had the inquiry into it, and at this time I didn't even take it that serious. I didn't write a letter in, and thankful enough at the time they go, all right, we're not going to ban bow hunting because it doesn't seem like the right thing to do. There's other steps we can do, but for now we're going to leave it how it is. And then the Labor government got into Parliament, and Susan Close's standing thing was that she wanted to ban bow hunting, and apparently it's been on her agenda since 2011. So way before the cat controversy and stuff that kicked off with me ever happened. So it absolutely blows my mind that she pushed it through, and she was very, very arrogant about it. And when I heard her on a radio segment talking about it, and she just started lying her ass off on the radio, that's about when it switched for me. I was furious. I rang up the radio station. I got on air, and I was not happy. I'm like, she is lying. Bow hunting is not banned in Victoria. Bow hunting is not banned in New South Wales. It's only banned in Tasmania, and they ended up hanging up on me. I was furious, and then since then, I've been doing, I've written emails to Meat Eater. They've done smaller segments on it because the emails that I've written to them, Cows Week in Reviews, he's talked about it. He's played the radio. Blood Origins, Robbie, I've had him on the podcast, and he's spoken about it heavily on his podcast, and he's done heaps of campaigns, and he's spoken to politicians here from South Australia. So yeah, pretty much the bow hunting ban, when it started getting more serious, is when I changed my mindset, and the more people I chat to.
Yeah, so this is, I love Ozzy. He's done such great work, and I can't thank him enough for what he does. He is an awesome person to have representing us law-abiding firearms owners in Australia, and his reviews are great. But his last Australian shooter, when he talks about that, that's the thing. And I think that's what happened to you, is when it finally hits you and it affects you,
it's too late.
And you wake up. Yeah. And that's what we need to instill in our younger generation. We've got to get that into them, that drive, that go, because that anger you had, that was your motivation, that was your drive. And the sooner we put it into our younger generation, the better. Teach them young, get them passionate about these things, because at the moment we have a generation of kids that just don't care at all about anything unless their devices go down. We've got to get them out there, get them active. And I think, no offense to our older generation, but we kind of see a segregation. It's of complete opposite ends at the moment. We've got that older generation that just want to live their happy life and not have any hassles, or poke their head out of the woodwork and maybe get shot down. But we've got to get the older generation involved with the younger generation. And, teach things, get some go in them. I know some old hunters, and they're passionate as hell about this, but they don't want to be publicly vocal about it because they've experienced a lot in their time where poking your head out gets you in a lot of trouble. And we've got to stop that fear. And that's why I've done the things I've done. Like, I called out the trafficking of firearms. No one in their right mind turns around and says the police are trafficking firearms publicly. Granted, probably not the smartest thing to do, and I was expecting a knock at the door, but it got people to pay attention. I'm not afraid to call out the bullshit for what it is, and we need more people to do it. Don't be afraid of the repercussions. I welcome them. Come after me. Make an example of me so I can make an example out of you. That's what it's all about. That's how politics has become. There's no calm, open debate anymore about the logics of things. It just doesn't exist. It's all emotional-based agenda. So the only way we're going to get the logical side across is either through the courts, or we elect people who are sensible and want to look after our rights and freedoms. And then we can debate that openly in Parliament. Robert Borsak, Jeff Bauman, they've done some good things. And they'll continue to do good things as they go along in their careers. People take issue with some of the things they've done in the past. That's in the past. This behind the scenes, I hear a lot about it, and I don't care for it. If you have a problem with someone, I don't care. Let's work together and fight for our future together. It's what we've got to concentrate on. This whole conflict between people is what's killing us as law-abiding firearms owners. We've got to fix it.
Yeah, that's the thing. Shooters, hunters, and the broad, they don't work well together, and that's something that we see on these vegan greeny types. They work really well together. It doesn't matter if they have, different views slightly, they work together on what they want to get done. One thing that I see quite a lot when it comes to the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party is people go, I'm not voting for the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party because they sided with Labor on this, or they sided on the Greens with this, or Robert was outspoken on this subject, and it just blows my mind. Like, so you would rather vote for like the actual Labor or someone else than vote for the one party that has your recreational hobbies in mind?
Yeah, look, being in Tasmania, we don't have these preferential deals, right? So in our state election, we had nothing but nonsense from people saying, oh, you sided with Labor at the last election, blah, blah. No, that wasn't in our state. And there's that attitude of that past history. They made that deal and they've learned from it. That's what we've got to move past. It was what it was, and let's move forward. You cannot keep saying this is what happened then, so I'm not going to vote for you. It's never going to work. And it's the same thing I keep saying time and time again. And Aussie keeps saying it. Doesn't matter if you're a duck hunter or a sports shooter or, a colour, professional shooter, whatever, you need to support each other. We're coming up to duck season, and we're going to see it in the media. We're going to see the RSPCA, Invasive Species Council, the Greens, all of them join together and say we need to ban duck hunting. Every single other law-abiding firearm owner needs to stand up. I don't care if you're a sports shooter, deer hunter, wallaby shooter, whatever. You need to fight for the duck hunters, because when it comes to deer hunting season and they start carrying on the same, the duck hunters will be there for you. It's tit for tat. We need to stand together, because eventually they're going to come after the sports shooters too.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's just a matter of time. It's
already happening in South Australia and Victoria, and I'm actually curious to go get my waterfowl identification test this year. First time I've actually thought about doing it, whether I go duck hunting or not. I think that having another person doing it is going to look better in the future than whether you actually go out and shoot some ducks or not. So I'll be encouraging people to go sit their wit, not just here in South Australia, but Australia wide, because again, the more numbers we have in these hobbies, the more people that will, the more voices, the more people are like, oh, actually, this is actually growing. We need to get behind this rather than not. And I put out a crazy rant the other day of this vegan person that sent me 22 minutes of voice messages over Instagram. I sent them maybe 5 messages, 6 messages back. They sent through about 43 messages, and 42 of them were voice messages. And this dude was just going on. He was cursing me. He was cursing Georgie Purcell. He was cursing the Greens. He was cursing vegans. He was a vegan himself, apparently, but, it just blows my mind that there's these people out there. And I said to him, I'm like, I'm uploading this as a podcast for people to listen to the shit that we have to deal with. And, it's received some mixed reactions, as I knew it would. But I was in tears laughing the whole time, because I'm like, how can someone be this deranged? But we have the numbers there, and we need to support each other, like you said, and like Ozzy said, and like Kate says. And, we've got Carly from the Victorians Against the Great National Park, and she doesn't hunt, she doesn't fish, she doesn't full drive, she doesn't go camping. She collects wood. And, she's the voice of saying no to national parks in Victoria. And it's been amazing to see the amount of people that get behind her. But like Kate has seen, like Ozzy sees, like Carly sees, they all get hate from people in these backgrounds for protecting us. It's like, it just blows my mind, the amount of messages that I had from hunters saying, that the Great Northern, they weren't taking state forests, they were buying private property, and then like the organisation was turning it into national park. I'm like, yes, I know, I read the website, but it's not about turning state forest into national park. It's about turning any land into national park. Like,
yep.
There's much better places, like things that this could be turned into. As we're seeing with national parks, there's not much funding. They're not being able to do the burns that they need to, the clearing they need to. Then you get all these greens behind them, and they're like, you're not allowed to do this burn, you're not allowed to clear this land, you're not allowed to cut down this dead tree or this fallen tree. And it just absolutely crazy. So it's just something that's happened over the last week that's really, really stuck with me. And I've done a number of posts about it, as you've seen, and you've done a number of posts about it. So it's just something that's hot on my mind and at the moment.
Yeah, like as you're saying with the numbers, if you remember the electrical trades union in I think it was Victoria, they stood alongside the duck hunters. They didn't have to do that, but they did. And look what happened. Those numbers, they were walking off the job if they didn't get what they wanted. That's people power. We need to stick together. And, changing things into national parks where you can't do anything, that's going to hurt the environment more. People don't realise this, and they go, oh, well, who cares, if it's locked up, it's, better for the environment. Well, is it? Because the very first conservation area set up was from a hunter. And it was set up for a reason. Hunters are natural conservationists. We are more green than the Greens. We're sensible Greens.
Yep.
We know what we're on about. We're practical. The Greens want to lock things up to the point where a fire's going through, like we had here in Tasmania last year or the year before, and the volunteer firefighters couldn't put a dozer track in to put a fire break in because it was a protected area. So they had to sit back and watch everything burn, all because of these greenies protecting the environment. Yeah. I'm pretty sure those volunteer firefighters are going to protect the environment more by, putting a fire break in. You don't see the greenies kicking up a storm when all these animals are burnt. It's an absolute madness, and we've got to stop this agenda. There's no sense in it whatsoever. I know whenever I go away, I clean my stuff up. I clean up other people's stuff. I've talked about it with Matt on his podcast, and I've put the photos up on his podcast. I've taken a car door home from a lake. I mean, the shit that's dumped out there, I bring back wherever I can, and get rid of myself, because it doesn't belong there. And everyone who's a fisher, hunter, firewood collector, I think most of us do the right thing, and we more often than not clean up after other people's rubbish that aren't necessarily those that are doing those things, just people going up there and having fun like dickheads and, ruining for the rest of us.
Yeah, 100%. And, the episodes that's coming out this Tuesday, so it'll already be out by the time this episode airs. But with Alex, the Wild Food Meister, he's doing massive things with the Clean Up Australia Day in state forests in New South Wales. And he's got some good backings like Blood Origin Australia and some of the forestry stuff over there. And they're donating bins and that so that they can do cleanups as hunters over there, which is freaking awesome. And then, other groups are wanting to get involved. I'm going to be looking at, seeing what we can do here next year. Not enough time to do something this year, but, just these cleanup things. But then Marcus, Ozcamper, the face of the Great Northern collabs, he posted in Carly's group the other day saying, we should do some stuff. You get these garbage bags that you put on the back of your full drives on your spare tires. He's like, we should make a point that, we do a little video, we take photos of us filling up these bags when we're out bush and show people that we're bringing back more rubbish than we're using while we're out there. And, show that we're doing these cleanups each and every time we're out there, which I think is a fabulous idea. And, there's talks of his brand doing those spare wheel garbage bags just to show people and, get this thing out there that, we're bush users, not abusers.
Isn't it disgraceful that we have to make a point that we do the right thing? Meanwhile, I think it was either New South Wales or Queensland, along the border there, they dumped the old wind turbine towers and the blades in a massive heap. And when they're not small, and they're just littered everywhere. So we're attacked because some yahoo threw some cans along a four-wheel drive track and it gets locked up because someone's doing something stupid. Meanwhile, it's all right for the government or agencies to dump that type of shit in the forests. It makes no sense. And where are the Greens on this? Why aren't they kicking up a stink about that?
Because they know that the general public have an issue with wind turbines as it is. I seen a post the other day that someone put up, and when the energy's not at the right price, they switch the turbines off until the price comes up. Then they switch them on to make the profit out of it, which was absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand how electricity has become like the prices of fuel at servos changing by the hour.
Yeah.
How is that right? That's unreal that they're even allowed to do that. I guess that's why when we're out camping and everything, we've got our solar systems and independent from everything and try and keep everything as clean and green as possible.
Yeah, that's nuts. And then you see a Tesla plugged into a charging station, and then there's a generator trailer out parked behind that,
Yeah, it's funny because actually Tasmania ran off diesel generators for a summer. Hydro actually sucks so much water out of our storages for power generation, more than they should have, and I'm pretty sure it was to sell to the mainland. I don't know. I don't really want to know what they did behind the scenes, but they had to import these diesel generators and set them up just to keep the lights on in Tasmania. And we have the cleanest, greenest power possible, which is all being upgraded right now. And they allowed that to happen. It's unreal, And then you have the greenies saying drain Lake Pedder, which is a hydro storage. I think what we should be doing is expanding our hydro. Make it bigger, make it better. Stuff these solar panels and wind farms that are eyesores and ruin the environment. Let's increase the clean green energy we have.
Yeah, 100% agree with you there. It's mind blowing, and at least can you fish those hydro dams and that over there?
Yeah, every one of them.
Yeah, beautiful. See, that's the thing here. We've got a lot of reservoirs that supply water to Adelaide here. and they've only just started opening them up for fishing and recreational use, but it's all kayak and land-based stuff, and then a few of them are still deemed okay for bushwalking and, well, bushwalking, but it's like national park. They cut trails in and put toilets in and all of that, so it's not really bushwalking. But they still have a lot of these reservoirs here locked up for, all this land is all locked up that we're not allowed in. It's all SA water land, and you can't do anything in it, which blows my mind. Like, South Australia is so backwards when it comes to land that we can recreate on, and then it's only national park. Like, they're pushing for more and more national parks. I would hate to know how many national parks we've had installed here over the last few years since Labor's been in party.
Isn't it funny that just the name change determines your ability to do anything? It's absolutely mind-boggling. If they change anything like that in Tasmania, I think that would be the biggest uproar that Australia's ever seen, because our hydro lands, a lot of them are around sustainable timberlands too. So you've got your hunting zones and those areas. Like, one place I hold dear to my heart where I go every year, I can go up the hill to the next lake and I can go hunting. Not that I wouldn't summer anyway, because I'd rather be fishing. I don't want to go out and shoot wallaby, fleas, ticks and all that type of stuff. But, the ability's there. We have all these great spots, and if they turned around and locked it up, I couldn't imagine what it's going to look like in Tasmania.
Yeah,
I don't know how they did it over there.
It's crazy. South Australia has a very green type of people.
We're more green than greens. It's people that are in the cities that have no idea what they're talking about. Just like the rest of them, the media, they're all complicit. The government, the advisors, none of them have been out there and experienced the beauty for what it is, and even just stayed out there for weeks on end.
Yeah, that's it.
They've got no clue.
They go to a national park that has all the tracks cut for them, and have toilets, have lookouts for photos, and that the parks tell you what you can, where you can go, where you can't go, what you can do, what you can't do, and that's how these people like living, because they've been in the city, and that's they're told what to do, told what to think. It's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, I love getting out there and having that free will. I've got my shit shovel, little fold out one.
Yep.
Do the right thing, bury it. You don't need all these amenities and things. That you don't even really need a boat ramp half the time if you have nice clearing. But they keep putting these amenities in, and then that's what changes things. It's good to have those amenities, don't get me wrong, but it comes at a cost.
It does.
Even just having rubbish collection around lakes, that's a cost, because then they put license fees up and, all these things that go along with it. We're shooting ourselves in the foot by asking for some of these amenities, really.
Yeah, I get it. I look, personally, here in South Australia, we don't have a fishing license. I think we should have one to be able to deal with some of these things, stocking, stuff like that. You see the states that have licenses, they have amazing fishing opportunities compared to here in South Australia. We're rolling out, electronic like boat parking systems and all of that stuff. So like you have to pay for your ramp fee all electronically, and it's a lot of old timers who have been paying coins for years. They don't have smartphones, so they get to the boat ramp and they can't buy a ticket, so that they get back to their car and they got a $500 fine sitting on their car, because there's nowhere to pay. There's no way for them to pay for a ramp fee. It's just absolutely crazy. Where if you have fishing licenses, it covers all that. So,
yeah, that's madness. We actually had an ongoing issue at the moment where this elderly gentleman contacted us because he was denied a hunting license because he didn't have an email address.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so we're actually kind of sorting that one out. But they've said that, well, that's actually not the case, blah, blah, blah. He can have a hunting license. I think they had a bit of fear that we were going to make a lot of noise about it, and rightly so, because we have an ageist agenda as well against those people who have fished their whole life, never had to pay a cent to do it, and now all of a sudden they've got to subscribe to this and do that, and a lot of them still pay cash.
Yep.
They don't want anything to do with this tap and pay and all this type of rubbish. It's really concerning that we're excluding a major part of our population.
It is. It's crazy.
I don't know where they're going to go, but obviously as times go on, it's all going to disappear where, cash and all that type of stuff. But not if we can have anything to do with it, ideally, because cash is king.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let's jump to chat a little bit about Shooters Union Tas. What's the go there? How'd you come about? How'd you get involved with that? And how did Shooters Union Tas pop up?
Well, that's a bit of an interesting one, actually. I was reaching out to everyone, as I do, trying to make connections and open up channels. And I had a bit of a reach out with a media guy at Shooters Union, and he helped me out a lot before, Shooters Union even was on the scene in Tasmania. And, with the election time, just trying to get better at what I was doing, and he helped me out a lot. And as time went on, it just kind of progressed to the point. It's like, well, Phil, let's put you into the Shooters Union thing, and here I am. And I think we need it in Tasmania because we only have one other, SSAA, and a lot of people kind of want something else. A lot of people don't actually bother going to the range because they got private property to site their rifles in, or anything like that. So we offer the membership and insurance, which funnily enough actually technically does cover bow hunting. Not something a lot of people's thought about, but it's still good to say that you've got insurance when you're out hunting with a bow.
Yep.
Obviously things change with insurance all the time, as we're seeing with firearms and everything. They're just trying to screw us at every angle, but we'll see what happens in the future. So I'm just trying to bring another option to Tasmania and get more of a face to the people who are members, because myself, I'm a SSAA member still, and I feel disappointed that more isn't being done, especially, as we've seen, New South Wales, Tasmania, West Australia. I don't think they're doing enough, and they're not being vocal enough. They may be doing plenty of things behind the scenes, but unless you see it, you don't know. I haven't seen anything good going on, and I feel like I should be doing more. So I took it on, and I've met with lots of people. I was up at Bushfest in Bothwell. It's like a country event. Lots of people coming up and talking about all the issues they've been having. And I always say, look, here's my number. Here's my email, contact me anytime, and I'll do my best for people, because that's at the end of the day what people want.
Yeah.
They don't want to send an email off to someone in another state and hope that you get a reply or any result. So I do what I can. Obviously, I'm time limited with work and everything, but I hope people think I'm doing a good job at the moment.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah, just try and expand on the membership. Very small numbers here compared to like Queensland, obviously where they started. So just need to get people more involved and allow me to fight for them and have their numbers backing me doing it.
Yeah, beautiful. And if people are in Tas and they're interested in joining Shooters Union Tas, how do they?
The easiest thing to do is just Google Shooters Union Tasmania, and it'll take you to the main Shooters Union Australia page, but it'll be the Tasmania branch where you can join in and get your membership and insurance as well for your hunting. So quite simple. Same with Shooters Fishers Farmers Party in Tasmania, just Shooters Fishers Farmers Tasmania, and it'll do basically the same thing. A lot of people think that, why would I give $30 or something to Shooters Fishers Farmers Party or Shooters Union? It's like, well, we're here doing the work for you, and if you want to know the costs for things, just to do one advert in the paper in Tasmania is around $700. That's a lot of memberships.
That
You
is.
know, I've spent probably close to 10 grand of my own money trying to get things moving and get people involved, and I don't get 1 cent back. I don't get any money from the Shooters Fishers Farms Party or Shooters Union for anything I do. It's completely voluntary, and all of us are all the same. We don't get paid for one thing. So I want people to understand that their money is actually going to the cause and not paying for someone to drive around.
Yeah, no,
You know?
that's awesome to hear. And yeah, I signed up with Shooters Fishers Farmers Party after the podcast with John. Because you need to get so many people on the sign up before they can become a candidate to run. So I signed up there, and yeah, seeing the emails that you get quite regularly from Shooters Fishers Farmers is really good. And we got the newsletter sent out end of last year, which was really good, and it gave you a good wrap up on what's been happening around Australia, and flicking through it and being like seeing that they mentioned the podcast and the episode that I'd done with John. So that was pretty cool. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, look, I mean, we try and include what we can, where we can. Obviously, lots of little things happen in between everything, so it's so easy to get lost with what's been happening. And when you get caught up with the big issues too, you're fighting them pretty hard. So, but if you ever want to know what's going on, get on the socials and say, "Hey guys, what he's up to? What are you trying to do?" We're just average people. We're not like these career politicians. We all have our jobs, and we do this generally at nights. It's a lot of work.
That's one thing I've noticed. Chatting to yourself, chatting to Robert, chatting to John is it's a passion project. Pretty much, it's your passions that's pushed you into it. John's a vet, and he's in the greyhound racing industry, and he hated the way things were going there, so he decided to run. And he chatted to Robert quite a bit about it, and Robert's like, "Yeah, do it. Let's do it. Let's get you on board." So, like I said, I've been doing as much as I can to help him out and make contacts here in South Australia for him. And he's got lots of plans. He's a busy man, but I'm sure he'll do great things down here.
Yeah, like I've had to be having phone calls with Robert at 11 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night with Mark, or because we're just so busy trying to get through things during the day that we actually have to talk to each other that late at night and catch up on what's been going on.
Insane.
Yeah, it's not like a 9 to 5. It's it doesn't stop, and it does get challenging, especially in elections. So just keep that in mind, people. Yeah.
That's it. Jumping on to a few more questions before we wrap things up. You said that you got into it. Got into hunting because of the food aspect of things. What is your favorite dish that you cook when it comes to wild game?
Sausage rolls are a go-to. I love my patties. But one of my favorites is actually deer schnitzel. The missus one night recorded me in the kitchen because I was bashing away bits of venison with the mallet, and I'm going schnitzel, schnitzel, schnitzel. She's going to laugh when she hears this. But honestly, I think it just makes such an awesome meal, venison schnitzel. And here's a tip for everyone. Miss is going to hate me for saying this, but go to Woolies and you get these packets from Tendaco. They're called Southern Fried Chicken. It's a little square packet, right?
Green and gold.
Yeah, that's the one. And smash out your venison or roux and coat that on there heavily, nothing else. Flip it, coat the other side, let it sit for 10 minutes, coat it again, put it in your pan with some tallow or butter, and you will not be disappointed whatsoever. That is the best meal you can have, I think. But outside of that, I do love making lasagna. Lasagna is my go-to. I'm actually going to be doing one this week, and I'll throw wallaby, deer, you name it. I've actually got some alpaca at the moment, so I'll be putting that into it.
How good.
Yeah, it's going to be great. So I'm really keen for that one.
It's funny that you mentioned the Kentucky Fried Chicken seasoning. I use that all the time on everything. I've used it on redfin fillets, whiting fillets. It's absolutely amazing. And when I shoot rabbits, that's my go-to. I get that, and that's how I make my Kentucky Fried Rabbit and make my popcorn chicken rabbit. But the other day I grabbed, because I'm a shocker at labeling stuff. After I shoot it, chuck it in Glad wrap or sandwich bags or freezer bags and chuck it in the freezer, and it's that lucky dip when the wife pulls something out. So she pulled some out, and it turned out to be like the flank, like the bit. It's not the flank steak, but it's like that little real thin bit that covers the bottom of the belly almost on a deer. And
the flaps.
That's what it was, the flaps. And pulled that out, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, shit, what am I going to cook with this? And I'm like, I open up the herbs and spice cupboard, and I see the green and gold packet staring at me. I'm like, I'm going to trim it up and do Kentucky Fried Venison. And it was so good.
Yeah, you can't beat it. I actually... when I was doing my last dough, I just had some little offcuts, and I had the pot of tallow on because I make my own tallow. And I just threw a handful in there without any seasoning or anything, and just like really flashed it, took it out, and oh my God, just without anything on it, so tasty. You just can't beat it. But I actually, when we're up fishing, because I take that stuff with me, and I make these things I like to call trout puffs. So I get trout, and I debone it fully, pin bone it, and cut them into nice little squares. And I use breadcrumbs and put that Tandaco Southern Fried into it as well. And I do an egg wash, really double coat it, put it in the tallow, and they puff up to like a golf ball. They're just magnificent. And you just need like a little bit of koopy or something like that. Easy meal. The kids love it.
Yeah, beautiful.
And being trout, you get that nice flavour from that too. So, yeah, I love my food.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
You can definitely hear the passion for food in both of our voices, and especially when we clicked on the Southern Fried Chicken mix there. They also do a good the fish one that they do as well is a really good one to do any fish in. I've been doing squid in the fish one lately, and that's freaking awesome. Rather than doing squid tubes, I cut them up and then slice it up so it turns into that that rolls up in the little pineapple-y looking slices, and then like coat it in that and then deep fry it, and it's so good. But yeah, there's nothing better than freshly caught food.
Oh, absolutely. I'll give you a quick tip. The Master Foods little glass jar, the lemon, herb, and garlic. Yep. Throw that in with that fish one as well, just a little splash of that just brings it out.
Yeah, beautiful.
Really, really good. Yeah.
Well, I know what I'll be getting at the shops when I go to Woolies next.
Yeah. Look at us talking about recipes. Yeah. We're grown men, for God's sake.
Not just talking about recipes, but geeking out and fangirling over them.
When you love it as much as we do.
That's it. Look, if you could change one thing about how hunters and anglers are represented in the media, what would it be?
That's a real hard one, because as you say, we're represented. Well, we're not represented at all, really. It's just a narrative against us. So I think by having a voice out there in the media would be the greatest step forward. Someone that is actually going to lay it out and not play the agenda, emotive response card, lay it out there for what it is. If we're given the opportunity to have our voice in the media, we just want to be able to say it how it is. And not everyone's going to agree with it, and that's their right. But the ability to put it out there and call out the rubbish for what it is. I mean, I've called out the bullshit from other hunters. And a lot of people saying, don't do that. You're giving the anti something to carry on about. No, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? Like, we need to represent the good people and call out the bad people.
Yeah.
It's not on for these people to tarnish the rest of us.
100%.
And if we have that ability to do that in the media, that's even better, I think, because anyone who is going to be representing me in the media, I want them to represent everything, the good and the bad, because the balance has to be there.
Yeah, 100%. And unfortunately, most of the time you just see the bad when it comes to outdoor recreational users. You don't see too many good articles. You do get a few here and there, but yeah, for the most part, it's mostly bad.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I uploaded photos of, hacked up deer next to a waterway, called that out. Bones being dumped on the side of the road, called that out. Also called out the journalists, as I said on the podcast with Matt, about getting it completely wrong and the narratives they were trying to push, called that out. They got shut down too. So we've got to call out everything that we can and not just pick and choose our little good stories. We've got to have everything.
Yeah, man, 100% agree with you. How do you stay connected with nature when you're not out hunting or fishing?
Short of crying, so when I go trout fishing, I have a little 12-volt cryovac, so I'll cryovac my trout and things like that. So every time I take one of those out for a meal, it kind of brings those memory backs of that bliss and enjoyment and peace and serenity that you have up there, and same when I get up there for a winter hunt. You pull that meal out, and food's that big thing for me. You connect it, you connect those dots. So that's probably the easiest way for me. And the other way is, working on my ute that I go bush with, because it gets you excited about wanting to be up there and, be involved with the beauty that we have and are given. But lucky enough, so when I drive home from work, I drive alongside the River Derwent, which is on the lower highway. So quite often I'm driving home, especially now, you get in the sunset behind the hills and you're just looking at that, and it just brings that sense of joy, that you're still kind of attached to the lands.
Yeah, beautiful.
Even though you're going home to sit inside your house. But yeah, no, I think that's what kind of saves me, is that drive home from work after a long shitty day and just seeing that beautiful sunset.
No, that's an awesome answer, man. That's great. In your own words, what does hunting mean to you?
Geez, you're coming out with some good ones. Hunting. I don't know. What do you reckon you would say?
Oh, that's a hard one. Because I've had so many great guests over the last few years, and this is one question that I haven't really changed up. Everyone answers it in their own unique way. For me, it's a balance of getting out, refreshing from everyday life. It's about being out with nature. It's about the harvest of the food. It's about, learning animals' behaviors. It's just, everything about being outdoors is what hunting is to me. And it's, being successful or not. It's, resetting. It's, spending time with mates. It's got so many different answers for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, all those things completely agree with. Hunting for me, it's not really about the hunt. Like, it gets you there, the purpose and the part of the hunt, sitting there and just fixated. There's nothing else really going through your mind, and you're in that zone. But as I was saying in a comment the other night, quite often I find myself distracted by these little red flashes, and those little red flashes are red robins, buzzing around the fluoro red, and you watch them, and then you start paying attention to other birds, and then you're seeing all these other things, and the connection that hunting gives me to the land probably means more than anything. I think you're sitting in your little hole, and you just look around your little hole, like where I go, there's like little mushrooms or little random grasses growing out between the other grass, and you're just looking at it, and you kind of become in awe of what's around you, and that tranquility, and then you finally snap back to the actual hunt, and then you zone back in, and the gift that we're given to be able to do it and provide for ourselves, that has some serious meaning as well, rather than going to the shops. I think being involved in a hunt and taking a prize home with you, that means more, and I don't take it lightly. Yes, I'm happy about getting something, as anyone is, but I still feel a bit torn inside, that I've killed something. And one time I had my very dear friend with me, and he's Muslim, actually, and so I shot a doe, and as we got up to it, it was still alive on the ground. So I actually slit its throat, and it was the first halal deer that we ever know about up in those areas. But that was a good moment to share with him too. He and I, we see eye to eye on so much, and he is a greenie as well. So the bliss and enjoyment that we have of going up to that area and enjoying the beauty that it is, that it just makes you whole. And there's no real words to describe it, I don't think.
No, that's awesome. And it's one thing you did bring up, like one of the greatest things about hunting, which isn't probably talked about enough, is that there's no cultural barrier between it. Like everyone has hunting in their background, like every culture from around the world, and you can connect through to different cultures through hunting. Like the amount of people from all different backgrounds I've been able to hunt with has just been absolutely awesome. And you're seeing more and more Muslim hunters out there. Like you've got Cads up in New South Wales. She is freaking amazing. She is so cool. She's the nicest person out there, and like just the fact that she's out there, putting her religion out there as well as like who she is as a hunter is freaking so cool.
Yeah, it's a common thing where people don't quite understand. When you're out, especially, in hunting, and you're sharing that experience with each other, and, that there is no you, me, but we're all there together. We're not divisive. We're sharing the same thing. And, we have great talks while we're out there and sharing knowledge. And, my friend Ali, he talks about being back overseas, and the camels and the big feeds they used to have, they'd shove everything in the camel and cook the camel, and the knowledge and everything. And I got to teach him new experiences too. So the whole ability, with hunting and even sports shooting, is so inclusive.
That's it.
It's such a great thing to be a part of, and the more people in it, the better. I think it completely takes away all the division that we're seeing in the country now, that's being created by politicians and media. We're all just people.
I do think it's something that we should focus on, as a hunting, shooting community, fishing community, that there's it's next to no racism in it, because once you're out there, you're all out there doing the same thing. And like you said, you've had, big, long, cultural talks to each other about each other's beliefs and all of that. And I've had the same when I've gone out with people from different backgrounds, and there's no judgment whatsoever. It's two people out there connecting one-on-one, just talking about, what they believe in and how they go about life, and you both take away a little bit of something, whether you're religious or not. And and then the food aspect of it too, it brings in all these different cultural backgrounds when it comes to the food side of things.
Yeah, it's a great experience, to share with people, and not so common with the older generation, but as we're coming into the newer generations, sharing those experiences and traditions and families, I think it's really good to, understand different cultures. And I work, like yourself, around different environments, different houses, and you get to meet a lot of people from different parts of the world. And, some of the stories you hear is just absolutely amazing to know where they've been, and, how they got to where they are and how they got here. And, my friend Ali, for instance, he was a greenie, he's a protester. The cops arrested him for protesting, and here he is, Shooters Fishers Farmers Party, and a greenie up having a hunt.
That's amazing.
Not really greenie so much now, but you can split the divide. There's only one person that I actually respect in the Greens Party who's an elected member in Tasmania, because she will communicate, she'll talk. There's not this animosity, and that's the beauty about being out there, is there is none of that. We're all just connected together, and it's great to have.
That's it. And I reckon on that note, we'll leave it there, because we can't go much better than that, I reckon. If people have enjoyed the episode, where can they find you on social media, and what can people do to support you?
So I'm on Facebook and X. So if you're on Facebook, just look up Phillip Bigg with 2 L's and 2 G's, and you should see me straight up there. On X is same thing. Just type in Phillip Bigg, SFF. I'll be on there. Follow me on there. You'll see all the things that I do to piss politicians off, or promoting the good things going on around the place, or just being an idiot wearing a deer skin on my head. So yeah, and if you want to reach out and help, if you're in Tasmania, you can reach out to myself on either of those, or you can reach out to the party, the Shooters Fishers Farmers Party of Tasmania. Just Facebook that one. You can send me an email, pbig@sff.net.au. I'm always happy to get back to people. I'll always do my best to get back to people as quickly as possible too. So I'm there for people if you need help or need any answers to questions. So it'd be great to have some support too. If you're willing to help out in these coming elections, if you see me saying, all right, I'm running for this, if you have neighbours and yourself, and you can put some signs up, or you can just even share posts, that makes a hell of a difference. People like to like things, but they don't share it. So it goes a long way as soon as you share something.
Sure does.
As we've seen with the Great Northern debacle. So yeah, anything people can help out with, that'd be great. And I do the same for everyone else. I try and share as much as I can, or I'll get involved in other states as well, because we're all part of the same law-abiding firearms community, and we're all fishers, and go wood hooking and you name it. So we've got to support each other.
That's it. Well, I'd just like to thank you for coming on. This was a pretty last-minute organised podcast. We got chatting after this whole Great Northern thing, and you've been on my radar for a while, and a few people have mentioned you on the podcast before, so it was great to get you on. And I love your work. I love hearing your enthusiasm. I love seeing your enthusiasm on your social media, and I'd just like to thank you for all that you do, and keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you. And likewise, you're spreading the word and getting it out there. And now that you're politically involved, I think that drives in you. So we're going to see a fair bit of you for a fair while.
I will try and do more, media side of things and background things, rather than being front and center for politics. I'll leave that to the people that are a bit more passionate than me.
No, that's fair. We've got plenty of positions around the place for people to do different things.
No, that's it. Easy, Phillip. Thank you very much for coming on, and I'll chat to you next time. Cheers.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Hunting Connection Podcast. We hope you've enjoyed our discussions and gained valuable insights into the world of hunting, fishing, and the outdoors. To stay connected with us and never miss out on an update, please be sure to follow us on social media, all at Hunting Connection Podcast. We appreciate your support and would love for you to share the podcast with your friends and family. Don't forget to tag us in your hunting photos on social media and let us know about your experiences. Your feedback is invaluable to us, so please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Together, we continue growing and delivering more captivating episodes for all hunting enthusiasts. Stay connected, stay informed, and keep pursuing your passion for the hunt. Until next time, happy hunting.